Well, with Julian on the brown note and how the Democrats are letting the whole of America down. So probably a decade ago now, the Democrats and the Republicans in America, and I should say the establishment Democrats, not the Democrats who are the more progressive Democrats, but the establishment Democrats, the status quo, the people from that Clinton era. About a decade ago, both the Republicans and the Democrats had different revolutions. People were really disgusted with the status quo of politics in America. We've been through the global financial crisis and the amount of obsequience to letting very wealthy, bad behaved people off, and an economy that wasn't reaching most of American lives and was in fact squeezing them, and continues to do so to this day. The Republicans' revolution was through the Tea Party and Fox News, and was a general and very welcome push towards fascism and authoritarianism and populist right-wing tropes. And the Democrats had their own with the Bernie Sanders really led progressives who wanted to push the Democrats to being a genuine Labour Party, to represent the working Americans and to, stop the largesse given to billionaires and so on, which is obviously a far better thing. But the establishment Democrats, they wanted to reject that so hard. So the Dems, they basically rejected the progressive wing of their own party worse than they rejected Trump. Trump came along for the Republicans and won in 2016. Bernie Sanders was probably subject to more abuse from the Democratic establishment than the Democratic establishment threw towards Donald Trump. The Dems themselves have got themselves into this pickle since the Reagan years, where Reagan was really the first embodiment of this populist right-wing rhetoric and also of economic neoliberalism. But the Dems hadn't won for 3 elections and basically became like a lot of Labour parties around the world, which the Democrats never have been. They wanted to be the light, nice, friendly version of the Conservative Party. So we got Bill Clinton, who was as much a right-wing demagogue in some areas of his policies as anyone. And he won office. And since then, that's what the establishment Democrats have been, is like that Clinton-esque era of Democrats that aren't really looking out for anyone other than the billionaire class. They're just not quite so evil. And after years of this kind of Republican Party, Bernie Sanders emerged. Well, the establishment Dems fought harder to stop him than they did to stop Trump, and so did the media. And we saw a similar thing in the UK with Jeremy Corbyn. Even though we had Boris Johnson and Brexit on one side, the establishment and the media fought harder to stop Jeremy Corbyn than they did to stop Brexit and Boris Johnson. But they're still doing it. Bernie Sanders just shared a poll. 75% of Democratic voters want the party to move in a more progressive pro-working class direction. Who knew? It's obvious. But the establishment Dems are doing everything they can to stop that. They rely on the status quo, which has been rejected by both sides. And the reason that they're doing it at the moment is because their entire plan is the midterm elections next year in America. They think they're going to regain control of the House, which they probably will, though good luck dealing with Donald Trump allowing fair elections. Do you really think that's going to happen? And basically stopping all his policies. It's a disgraceful tactic. It's offering the voters nothing other than anti-Trump. And it's also kiboshing the entire base of the party, just like they are in the UK with Keir Starmer. I'm putting a piece online about that, where you've got this very Tory-light version of a non-right-wing party cozying up to an ideal of voters that don't really exist anymore. And the Dems have had terrible foreign policy as well, just as bad as the Republicans would have. America no longer needs centre-right Democrats at all. They need a Labour Party. The old guard of these people is dying out. They're being replaced by younger progressive voters. And the unsung story of the last election is that 10 million Democratic voters who voted for Joe Biden to stop Donald Trump could not hold their nose and vote for the establishment Democrats again, due to things like the war in Gaza, which is still not being recognised for how many voters just didn't turn up, but because they're just not offering anything at all. All they want, they're such cowards, the Democrats. They just want to accommodate Trump no matter what he says or does, on the understanding that they might win the midterms next year, which they will. And they're like Crumb Maidens. They just hope for a few crumbs to fall down to them. And they're often lifers. They're often people that have had decades in politics. And they will refute anything. You know, if the progressives come through and say they're anti-Israel, God forbid. And the rich want those Democrats. The rich in America, the billionaire, the oligarchs, they want this kind of Democrats in power because they never go after them. They never try and make America fairer. They never really protect things like public health care because it doesn't exist. They offer mealy-mouthed versions of it, which the Republicans then come along and try and tear up. So the only way out, and I think it's the same way in the UK, is to push these people out of the pie. For the younger progressive people to fill all of the rank and file and to push out these establishment Democrats. Trump gave America something to vote for. The Democrats have only offered for nearly a decade not being Trump, and that's a disgrace.